Amara stood there, almost in tears as she watched Momo sleeping there. Before she could go over to her, Liwei held her hand and told her that she shouldn't tell her that Master Shen was the one who saved her, and that she should say it was him. Amara glanced at Liwei, choosing to trust him, and she obliged. Liwei left the room to give them some privacy. Amara walked over to Momo and looked at her as she lay there, fast asleep, a smile tugging at her lips, thinking about how scared she had been of losing her, scared of something happening to her. She slowly touched her face, and Momo slowly opened her eyes. Panicking, she sat up straight and looked around, asking where she was. But Amara immediately hugged her and told her that she was okay, that she was safe now, and that she had been saved. Momo looked at Amara to make sure she was real, that everything happening around her was real, that she wasn't dreaming, and in tears, hugged Amara, telling her that she thought she was going to die, and that she was scared she would never see her again. Amara looked at her and told her that she would definitely not let that happen to her, and that she was glad she was okay. They stayed like that together, embracing each other, happy to see one another again. Meanwhile, Liwei made his way to his office. As he walked in, he stopped by the entrance and saw his assistant in there, placing hidden cameras. He stood there watching him, having long known he was a spy, but seeing him in action clarified everything. He slowly walked in and stood there, watching the assistant, who was still unaware of his presence. As soon as he turned around, the assistant froze in shock to find Liwei standing there, looking at him. His heart stopped, knowing he had been caught red-handed. Liwei's sharp gaze pierced him as he slowly walked toward him, the assistant moving back, clearly trembling and scared. Liwei grabbed him by the collar and pushed him against the wall, his eyes burning into his. "I've long known you were a spy," he stated, "and I've been waiting for this moment." The assistant staggered to catch his breath, looking at Liwei still trembling. Liwei kept his eyes locked on him and asked if he had been sent by his uncle or Fang. The assistant, still struggling to speak, stated that it was Fang and that he had no choice. He had been forced. Liwei slowly released his grip on him, his gaze still sharp, and told him to pack up his things and leave, that he was fired. The assistant immediately fell to his knees and pleaded with Liwei, insisting that it wasn't his choice, that Fang had threatened him and his family, saying if he didn't comply, he would hurt his wife and child, and that he had no other choice. Liwei stood there, unmoved. The assistant continued pleading, stating that this job was the one he used to feed his family and that he couldn't afford to lose it, that if his family hadn't been threatened, he wouldn't have gone through with spying. Liwei looked down at him and told him to get up. The assistant stood on his feet, still trembling under Liwei's presence. Liwei moved closer, looking into his eyes, and told him that starting today, he was going to tell Fang everything he got from him, that he would personally decide what to tell Fang. Moving even closer, he added that, in addition, since he was a spy, he would now be spying on Fang instead, and would leak every piece of information about Fang to him. The assistant, still trembling, nodded, agreeing to the terms. Liwei warned him that if he ever betrayed him, he would face more than what Fang had threatened. The assistant, trembling, promised not to betray him. Liwei told him he could leave, and he immediately ran out. Liwei stood there for a moment, and before he could sit, his cell phone rang. He answered, and it was Kai asking to meet up around lunchtime. Liwei paused for a moment, deciding whether to agree or not, thinking about how it might be related to what he had seen in his house. He agreed, and after hanging up, he stood silently, hoping that Kai would not betray him, though deep down he knew that sometimes people let you down, and what you want is not always what you get. Meanwhile, Momo and Amara walked through Liwei's house, Momo's eyes wide as she marveled at its beauty. Turning to Amara, she smiled, her voice filled with excitement, telling her that she was basically living her dream. Moving closer, she teased, asking when Leeway was planning to marry her and officially make her the madam of the house. She added that once she got married to him, she would practically be like the First Lady, the wife of the East Gate Group president. Amara laughed softly at her words, shaking her head. She told her that she was being silly, that they were still too far off from marriage, and that both of them were still dealing with their own issues. Marriage would only complicate things further. Her expression shifting, Amara stepped closer to Momo, her voice softening with concern. She asked her to promise never to do something so dangerous again, that she had seen for herself how May and James could be, and that she should never ever try to investigate again. Momo stayed silent, looking at Amara. But Amara, more worried now, leaned even closer, pressing her to promise she would never do such a thing again. She reminded her that just because she was telling her what was happening in her life didn't mean she should get involved, and that the last thing she wanted was for something to happen to her because of her. Momo finally broke her silence, explaining that she had only wanted to help and didn't mean to get too involved. Amara shook her head gently and told her she didn't need to get involved, that she would handle things herself, and that she also had leeway to help. Momo nodded, promising not to intervene again, but she added, looking at Amara with determination, that she shouldn't let the matter slide. She confessed that she suspected May and James had done something to their daughter for her to end up in that state, and that the only way to stop the pressure on her was to find out exactly what was wrong. She suspected it was more than what met the eyes. Amara nodded, her expression serious, promising she would look into it. She warned Momo again not to try to intervene, joking that if she did, she would spend an entire year without talking to her as punishment. Momo immediately hugged her, laughing and pleading that she wouldn't do that and that she truly wouldn't get involved again. Momo then took out her cell phone, scrolling through social media. Looking at Amara, she asked if she knew it was her boyfriend's birthday. Amara blinked, puzzled, asking what she meant. Momo moved closer, showing her a post on East Gate Group's official page wishing Leeway a happy birthday. Amara froze, stunned, realizing she hadn't known. Momo teased her, calling her silly for not knowing, suggesting that maybe Leeway hadn't told her on purpose, wanting to see if she would remember and if she cared, and that he must be disappointed wherever he was. Panicking, Amara admitted she was a terrible girlfriend. She reached for her phone to call him, but Momo stopped her, smiling and moving closer. She assured her there was still time, that they could plan a surprise for him, and even offered to help prepare it. She added that it was only fair. After all, Leeway deserved it, especially since he had saved her from May. Taking Amara's hand, she suggested they head to the mall, and together they walked out, excitement filling the air. Meanwhile, Leeway made his way to a nearby horse ranch, following Kai's directions. He spotted him tending to a horse, the sunlight casting long shadows across the stable. Leeway walked slowly toward him, bracing himself for whatever was about to unfold, his heart steady but his mind alert, every step measured, every breath controlled, ready for what was to come. Leeway stood before Kai, looking at him with sharp eyes, and told him that he couldn't believe he would invite him to such a place during work hours, and that he really didn't want to go back to the office smelling like horse dung. Kai laughed lightly, telling him he could always shower and that he was the boss. No one would scold him if he was late. He motioned toward a spot a little away from the horses, telling him they could sit there. They walked over and took their seats, Leeway keeping his eyes on him the entire time, watching his movements and studying his expression, wondering what was really on his mind. Leeway asked him why he had wanted to meet, and Kai kept his eyes on him, almost as if he was trying to read him. Breaking the silence, Kai said it was as if he didn't know him anymore, that they had been close once. Yet now there was a distance between them, and the Leeway he knew had been erased entirely. Leeway's expression remained unreadable, and he told him that things didn't always stay the same, that they had been kids back then, and that things were always bound to change, and he wouldn't blame him if he had changed as well. Kai leaned in a little, keeping his eyes on him, and told him that as his cousin, his best friend, and someone who had been close to him, he was going to beg him for one thing and wanted him to promise. Liwei's gaze pierced him as he told him that he would have to bear it first before making any promises. Kai moved closer, his voice low and serious, telling him to stop investigating his family's death, that he knew it was more dangerous than Leewi thought, deeper than he realized, and that it could get him killed and hurt even more in the end if he found out the truth. He pleaded with him, saying he should let it go, that he was back now, he had an amazing woman by his side trying to help him, and regarding the company he could always help him take it back. He added that the desire for revenge would only get him killed, that he had been given a second chance at life instead of spending it seeking vengeance, and that he should use it wisely, because he was sure his family would have wanted the same for him as well. Leewi didn't respond, his sharp gaze never leaving Kai, listening to every word, his expression darkening with every sentence. Finally he spoke, his voice low and cold, telling him that he had no right to tell him to stop, and that only if Kai knew how it felt to lose an entire family and watch their bodies being carried away in ashes would he have the right to speak. He stated that his plan from the beginning had always been revenge, and no one was going to convince him otherwise, and he would not turn back for anyone. Kai kept his eyes on him, seeing the determination etched into his face, realizing that Leewi had become someone completely different, someone hardened, someone who had embraced the darkness that came with loss. Leaning in, he told him he was afraid it wouldn't end well, and that it would be unfair to Amara, who was trying so hard to bring him back, only for him to be swallowed by the darkness again. He said he was selfish for involving an innocent girl in such a dangerous mission, for exposing her to danger, and even having a whole secret torturing room in his house, the same house he shared with her. Leewi smirked slightly, telling him that he had no right to speak about what was going on between him and Amara, and that Kai should focus on playing the role of a fake boyfriend, a bystander in this matter, which he was sure would end soon. He added that, like he had said before, he was prepared for what was to come, and if death was part of it, he would embrace it because he would die knowing he had sought justice for his family. Kai asked him, what about Amara? And if he was so prepared for everything, including dying for his mission, what would happen to her in the end? He asked if that wasn't selfish, bringing someone into his life, caring so much about revenge, and not considering the consequences. Leewi remained silent, giving no answer. Kai told him not to worry, that he wouldn't tell anyone about the secret room, and that he hoped talking to him would change his mind. He said that no matter what, he was still his cousin, his brother, his blood, and because of that bond he was willing to stand by his side, help him take over the company and find happiness. But the only thing he wouldn't help with was his revenge mission. Leewi told him he didn't need his help with that he could handle it himself, and that he had already devised every possible outcome when planning this mission, including death, and that Amara was fully aware of it and would understand if he died, because he had made it clear from the beginning that the mission was his priority. Kai glanced at the horses, then back at Leewi, asking if he remembered his horse he used to call Snowflake. Leewi nodded. Kai laughed a bit, saying that they had only been 6 at the time, that he loved the horse, and that it was the first gift he had ever received from Leewi's father. He teased that Leewi had cried and stolen Snowflake because he wanted it all for himself, and that from that day forward he had planned to steal something Leewi loved to make him experience the same feelings. Leewi's eyes narrowed, wondering where this conversation was leading. Kai leaned closer, telling him that he had finally found something he loved, and he was going to try to steal it. He added that it didn't mean he hated him or that he was a bad person, and that this would be a healthy competition between them as brothers. He said he would try to steal Amara from him, and if he won, his grudge would be canceled, and if he lost, he would not hold it against him. Leeway chuckled, his eyes darkening as he leaned in, and told him that what belonged to him could never be taken so easily, and that the only way anyone could take Amara from him was over his dead body. She was his woman, and no one would dare touch her. Kai leaned in, meeting his gaze, telling him that it was a deal, that they would wait and see if she could be stolen or not. Leeway's lips curved in a small smirk. "She's not a toy," he said, his voice low. "Don't use her in games or bets. If you want to steal from me, don't involve her." Kai laughed, shaking his head, saying that Amara was the one thing he cherished the most, the only thing he could think of stealing. He stood up and told him he wasn't asking for permission. He was telling him so he could be prepared. With that, he walked away, leaving Leeway sitting there. He chuckled softly to himself, thinking how ridiculous Kai was, and how, despite seeing the secrets in his house, he hadn't betrayed him. Leeway's thoughts drifted to Amara, and he couldn't help but think how absurd it was to even imagine that Kai could take her from him. Meanwhile, Amara and Momo walked through the mall, weaving between shoppers as they entered a store to buy things for Leeway's birthday surprise. Momo's eyes lit up as she spotted some colorful balloons with "Happy Birthday" printed on them, and she picked them up, turning to Amara with a smile. She told her that she thought they looked cute and that she should take them. Amara nodded, agreeing, and Momo moved a little closer, a mischievous glint in her eyes. She leaned in and whispered that maybe tonight would be the perfect chance for her to finally give herself to Leeway for his birthday, that he deserved it, and that she was speaking on his behalf because he had saved her life and deserved more than just cake. Amara's cheeks flushed, and she told Momo shyly to stop talking nonsense, her voice barely above a whisper. Momo laughed softly, teasing her, and told her that it wasn't as scary as she thought. Yes, it might be painful at first, but after a few minutes, everything would feel fine. She chuckled and added that soon enough, Amara would want to do it every day. Amara kept her eyes on her friend, unsure, and asked if she was really sure about what she was saying. Momo nodded firmly, saying that if it were her, spending every night with a hunk like Leeway, she would have long since done it. She told her that men couldn't control themselves like women, and that delaying it too long could mean Leeway might not wait forever, and might end up doing it with someone else. Amara's expression hardened, and she told Momo that she would never allow that to happen. Momo, smiling knowingly, shook her head and said it wasn't up to her to decide. She explained that intimacy was part of a relationship, that if she truly cared for Leeway and was ready, she shouldn't hold back, that they were adults now, and it wasn't like she was a teenager anymore. Amara looked at Momo, letting her words sink in, and after a moment, nodded in agreement. She quietly told her that she would do it that night, for his birthday. Momo stepped closer, her smile warm and encouraging, asking her if she was truly ready, and telling her that she shouldn't do it if she wasn't. Amara took a deep breath and told her that for him, she was ready, that the only thing holding her back had been fear of the pain. Momo nodded and told her to just be brave. With that, she walked to the counter to pay for the balloons, leaving Amara standing there, her mind spinning with thoughts of what Momo had just told her, her heart beating faster at the idea. When Momo returned, she mischievously slipped a small package of condoms she had bought in secret into Amara's bag, smiling as she told them they could leave now. As they turned toward the exit, they nearly collided with Yan, who had just walked into the store. Yan froze, his eyes widening in shock as he saw Momo standing there, alive and well, and a mixture of disbelief crossed his face. Yan moved closer to Momo, his eyes scanning her carefully, searching for any sign of weakness. Momo kept her gaze steady on her and asked softly if she needed anything. Yan didn't respond, and for a moment The tension between them hung thick in the air. Amara, sensing the unease, gently took Momo's hand and led her away, leaving Jan standing there, stunned and frozen, her mind racing as she watched them disappear. As soon as they were gone, Jan pulled out her cell phone and dialed May's number, her fingers trembling slightly. When she answered, she demanded to know what had just happened, telling her that she had seen Momo and had thought she was dealt with. May's voice came cold and sharp through the line, warning her never to mention Momo again and to stay away from her. Jan, caught off guard, asked what was going on, but May's tone left no room for argument. She told her to listen carefully, to stay away from Momo, and that he could ask about anything else. But Momo was off limits. With that, she hung up, leaving Jan standing there, confused, frustrated, and trying to piece together the puzzle of what had just transpired. Meanwhile, later that day, Amara moved carefully around the house, putting the final touches on Leewei's birthday surprise. She checked the placement of the cake, straightened the candles, adjusted decorations, and made sure everything was perfect. She fixed her outfit and lightly touched up her makeup, taking a deep breath as she whispered to herself that she was ready and that she hoped he wouldn't be mad at her for forgetting his birthday, or worse, for not being the first to wish him. Amara stepped out onto the balcony, her eyes scanning the street below, hoping to catch the glint of his car headlights, but the road was empty. She sighed, reaching for her cell phone to call him, when suddenly the faint flicker of lights caught her attention. Her heart skipped a beat as a wide smile spread across her face. He was here. She quickly turned back into the house, positioning herself carefully, holding the cake in her hands, ready to surprise him. Slowly, the front door swung open, and Leewei stepped inside. Amara immediately moved toward him, her voice bright and warm as she said, "Happy birthday." He paused, glancing at the cake, then around the house, taking in the decorations, but he didn't speak. His expression was cold, unreadable, almost like he had seen something that froze him in place. Amara, still smiling nervously, tried to lighten the moment, apologizing softly for forgetting it was his birthday and promising that next time she would be the first to wish him. She gestured to the cake and asked if he wanted to cut it, hoping he would like the flavor. But Leewei didn't respond, his face a mask of unreadable emotion. Before she could even reach for his hand, he pulled away, turned sharply, and walked out, slamming the door behind him. Amara froze, her heart sinking as she tried to understand his sudden coldness. She wanted to run after him, to ask what was wrong, but the roar of his car engine cut through the tension. She rushed to the balcony just in time to see his car speeding away, her mind spinning with questions and worry. She stood there gripping the railing, trying to make sense of what had just happened and whether he was still upset that she hadn't wished him a happy birthday. Amara stood there waiting, her mind a whirlwind of confusion. She had thought she was going to surprise him, but things had not turned out the way she imagined. She grabbed her cell phone and tried to call him, yet his phone wasn't going through, panic beginning to slip in as she dialed Master Shen's number instead. And when he answered, she quickly asked if Leewei was with him. But Master Shen told her that he wasn't, his voice curious as he asked if something had happened. Amara explained everything, how she had planned a surprise for his birthday, and instead of being happy, he had rushed out without a word, and she had no idea what was going on. Master Shen's voice grew firm as he asked her again if she had just said she threw a surprise birthday for Leewei, and when Amara confirmed that yes, that was exactly what she did, she asked if there was a problem, and Master Shen, his tone heavy, asked her if she truly knew what day it was. Amara, still confused, told him that it was Leewei's birthday, but Master Shen corrected her, telling her it was not only his birthday, but also the death anniversary of his family, and that he had never celebrated his birthday since then, because the day was not one of joy but of grief. His words crashing into Amara and leaving her frozen in place, unable to believe what she was hearing, her heart sinking as she realized she had no idea. She told Master Shen she hadn't known, and Master Shen told her he understood and admitted he should have told her earlier. But when Amara asked where Liwei might have gone, desperate to find him and explain, Master Shen told her there was only one place he could be and that he would send her the location. Amara stood in silence after the call ended, her thoughts spiraling as she realized how silly she had been, how she should have looked deeper instead of rushing into a surprise. The message came through, and without hesitation she ordered an Uber, sitting in the back seat as her heart thudded with the hope that she would find him there. The Uber pulled up at the location, and Amara sat for a moment before stepping out, her eyes falling on the sight of a gated mansion that loomed with a haunting stillness. She pushed the gate open slowly and walked inside, her steps faltering as she realized the house had long been burnt down, and then it clicked. This was his family home, the very place where they had died. She spotted his car parked nearby, her breath catching as she made her way deeper, stepping into the ruins where charred remains of a life once lived surrounded her, the air heavy with ashes and the ghosts of memory. Fragments of furniture and walls still clung stubbornly to existence. Untouched by time, as if refusing to erode completely, she moved further in, and there he was, sitting on the floor amidst the wreckage, a bottle of whiskey in his hand. His figure weighed down by grief, his state so vulnerable that it pierced straight through her.